right, we're moving on to the rear spar assembly. And of course, there's a few questions with the plans here. We've got the cap and the cap, so one's up top, one's at bottom. Got the proper length, so when I move over to how long we should cut them, here it says 12 feet, so 144 inches. Again, the plans aren't out. This is actually about 12 foot 1 and a bit, so don't go off the plans. And the spar lower cap and the upper cap both come to there, and they both start at the same spot. But yet, in the plans, it says that one is 145 inches and one is 144 inches. That's a 12-footer. That, I don't know where the 1 inch comes from. Like I said, they both stop right there. And when you come down to where they begin, they both begin right there. So, not sure about that. Anyways, let's look at what I did here. Top cap isn't on yet. I started with the bottom. I know my table is square and straight. So the first thing I did was cut out the webbing and put it onto the table edge. I clamped it into place. And at each of my joins here, I clamped it down where they join so they don't move. So the webbing was right straight, they're right together, and they were clamped. I used these clamps to actually clamp that down. Once the webbing was on there, I glued up a spar on one side, and then I just slid it down, and it fit right between my clamps. So my clamps were holding down the webbing, but there was enough room that I could slide that cap right through my clamps and all the way down. And I just turned it over so the glue side was down, put it right on the edge so it is exactly in the corner, and all the way along it is exactly straight on the edge of that table, on the edge of that web, spar webbing. So that's that. Left a little bit sticking out, 1.5 inches, so that I can make that little detail for the wing tip. So that's the bottom cap on the rear spar. The top cap will go on next, and it will sit like this. Now, if you'll look on the plans, there's a bit of a bevel there. From this side to this side is, what is that? I know it, I should know it. It's 2 3/4 from there to there. But there's a little bit of an angle cut there, so from there to there, it's only 2 5/8. So there's a little bevel on that top cap. And if you look at it, I put that little bevel on there. How did I do that, you may ask? Well, on the table saw, I set my table saw to, and they don't explain it anywhere in the plans, but I set it to 22.5 degrees. So I had an angle on there, 22.5 degrees, and I ran it through just to cut that bevel on the top spar cap for the rear spar. And then it will just get glued on right like that. I'm going to let those ones dry, and then I'm going to put that one on. And what that bevel does, that's where the wing comes down at the back end. And on the back of this, that's where your flaps will go, and your ailerons will go with that going down. So on the picture here, the big picture, you've got your leading edge up here. Here are the main spars, and I've got that done, and they're hanging up there. They're all complete now. I just have to drill the holes in them, but they're complete. So that's where that would go, right there. That'll be the main spar. And what I'm doing right now is this rear spar that goes all the way along to give the strength to the back end of the wing. And right here is the flap. So that's why this spar has to be nice and flat on that back end. And if you look here at the wing, this is the rear spar right there. And you can see that little bit of a bevel that's on there. So that's the reason for the bevel. 22.5 degrees is what I made it at. And that gives you, when you do all the math, that gives you from here to here, 2 3/4, and from here to here is 2 5/8. So that's the 1/8 of an inch you take off on that bevel. All right, another installment. Come back tomorrow and we'll get that top cap glued on. And then we'll have our first rear spar completed. Any questions, comments, just leave them below, wherever the heck below is. Thanks. See ya.